These were the scenes in France as for the second time in the country's history, they are the champions of the world. A 4-2 victory over Croatia in a thoroughly entertaining final sees France win the 2018 World Cup. Hello, welcome to the ESPN FC studio. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Ali Moreno, Stewart, Robson, Craig, Burley. We also welcome a very happy Julien to the show, and in Moscow, Gab Moarcotti with us. We'll be with you boys in a moment, but let's start in studio, gents. And what a thoroughly entertaining game we saw. We thought it was going to be tight. We thought maybe a goal would be in it, but in the end, 6 goals and so many talking.
And we talked about it. We thought VAR had gone on its holidays.
Well, yes, we'll talk about the penalty a little later on.
We thought it packed up early, but I thought the game was the epitome of the World Cup. Entertaining, full of goals, attacking, which is what this World Cup has been all about. It's been a progressive tournament. The Russians have held it fantastically well. The stadiums have been great. The surprises have been even better. The storylines are unheralded, I think, in my memory of watching World Cups. And some of the smaller nations put up a great fight. And we got one team who maybe some expected to go all the way in France, and another team in Croatia who really no one expected to go all the way. And it made for a compelling tournament, it really did.
And boy, did Croatia play their part in this final.
Absolutely. They started the game really well. I was surprised how attacking they played. They brought their wide players in to go and support Mandzukic. They won the ball back in good areas. For the first 60 minutes, they were the better side. And for the first 20 minutes, they were dominant. And France hardly had a kick in that first half, besides scoring 2 goals. I think the stats were 7 shots for Croatia, only 1 for France. So it was a strange first half. And I thought Croatia did everything they possibly could to take the game to France.
In the end, was it just the quality?
Yeah, he just said it was a strange first half. I think it was a strange game in the sense that you always got the feeling that Croatia were the one dominating, that they were the ones pushing numbers forward. They seemed to be in control, and yet they were down and down again. And when they really committed the numbers forward, then that quality that you're talking about, that's when it took over. The pass of Paul Pogba that ends up in his goal eventually, with a little side volley action to Kylian Mbappe down the right-hand side, the speed of Mbappe to get him behind. Pogba follows up the play and then finishes on the rebound. That was excellent. And then Kylian Mbappe, who just had moments. It wasn't a solid performance throughout. Sure. It's just moments when you just see that spark and you see that fire and you see this guy just take off and you're like, hold on a second, he's going to turn the corner again on Vida. He's going to turn the corner again on Strinic. Every time he touched the ball with time and space on the right-hand side, and he just turned it on, there was no stopping Kylian Mbappe. You see that from France. You don't quite see that from Croatia. As good as they are in the midfield, they don't have that same ability in the final third. Perisic was good, Mandzukic hard-working, but you don't quite get the same level of productivity in the final third as you do with France.
I don't think you said strange. I don't think it was strange at all. I don't think the way the game panned out, particularly in the first... We talked yesterday...
I thought that Croatia would be... They'd have their white players go a little bit deeper, and they'd almost sort of say, we're not coming out and exposing ourselves at the back. I thought they pressed the ball quite well. The 2 wide players came in and joined Mandzukic. They got the ball forward into front areas early. Yeah. And so that's what I thought was strange. I thought Croatia would play at a slow tempo. They didn't play at a slow tempo.
We talked yesterday in the show that we thought the French would be quite happy to give up possession, which they did against Belgium, by the way. Belgium called it anti-football. I think that was just sour grapes. They did it again against Croatia. I thought coming into the tournament the French would play with more panache because of the talent they've got, but they clearly made a conscious decision against the better teams that Deschamps wasn't going to leave himself open. He was going to bank on having the team very well organised and then hit teams on the counter-attack with the pace and the guile and the physicality they had up front. And that's how it panned out again.
And going back to Ali's point, there was only really one match winner on the pitch, and that was Mbappe. The other players are passers of the ball, which is a good attribute to have, but there was only one player that was going to go past people with the ball, and that was Mbappe.
Let's bring Julien into the show. What better way to celebrate France winning the World Cup than spending it with us, eh, Jules? But there you go. Was it ever comfortable for you?
No, I thought France struggled a bit more than I expected them to, and probably because N'Golo Kanté being ill, because we know now he had a really bad stomach bug since last night, was clearly having an off day. And I think when Kanté has an off day, a lot of the team, much of France team is having an off day as well. And as soon as Nzonzi came on for the poor N'Golo Kanté, I think that sort of rebalanced a bit that midfield and the game, and that's where after that I think France were far more on the front foot than they were before. But I thought the quality was still there from the beginning in Kylian Mbappe, like Stewart just said, and I think overall the best team deserved to win.
Gab Moarcotti, as we mentioned before, was at the game. Gab, what was your impressions overall of it?
Yeah, I mean, look, on a different day, in a different situation, with different situations, or different refereeing decisions, things could have broken the other way. But, you know, I thought Zlatko Dalic, the Croatian boss, said it best. You know, the better team overall won. And I think we're going to look back and realize how individually talented this French team was, and how maybe they didn't hit the heights throughout this tournament that they might have. But I'll leave you with what Didier Deschamps said. You know, are we the most beautiful world champion? No. But are we world champions? Yes. And that's all that matters, and that's all that matters to him. This was a team that reflected Didier Deschamps, I think, more than the likes of Griezmann, Pogba, and Mbappe.
Let's talk handball then, shall we? Of course, very much the turning point of the game, the penalty being awarded through VAR and the referee. We asked you on Twitter whether or not the handball is a penalty. It's close, but yes, 53% said yes, 47% said no. This is what Dalic had to say after the game. The Croatian coach said, "I never speak about referees, but let me say this. In a final, you don't give such a penalty, but it doesn't diminish France's victory. They deserve to win, and I congratulate them." We asked friend of the show, Peter Walton, former Premier League referee, what he thought of the decision. He said, "This is not a handball offence. The ball has hit the arm of the defender. However, the arm is in a natural position. The ball has travelled a very short distance, and it does not look a deliberate act. Looking at a slow motion replay should be for a point of context only. Context is in full speed. The referee took too long at the monitor to convince me this was a clear and obvious error."
Yeah, he wasn't sure. That's why he stood at that monitor for as long as he did. And the problem here with penalty kicks across the board is referees are making it up as they go along, right? The handball law, they are making up game by game because it's ambiguous. It's an ambiguous law, and it is so open to interpretation, it is scary. I thought this was never a penalty kick in a million years, primarily because as a player in front of Perisic, the hand comes up, not above his head, but here in the act of jumping. When you descend, the hand comes down. Yes, it comes out, but you're not thinking as a player, I must keep my hands in a certain position. You have to have your hands at a certain... You can't have them tucked away. You can't have them behind you. You can't jump with them behind you. They have to be somewhere. And he doesn't have enough... And everybody's saying, oh, the hand came out. He doesn't have enough time. He'd have to be the greatest goalkeeper in the world to know the player in front is going to miss the header, and he makes that reaction. I just think it was... Honestly, I was shocked it was given.
Absolutely shocked. I don't think it's handball. It changed the game as well because Croatia at that point were dominating. They just got the equaliser. I think it's a big decision from the referee. And the fact that he went to the monitor for a long time, he went to walk away and then went back again to have another look. So somebody obviously said something and he said, have a look at this angle. Wherever angle you look at, it's not deliberate. I don't think it's a penalty.
See, here's the problem. And so I don't think it's a penalty, right? And when you see it at full speed, it's not a penalty. And the referee saw it at full speed, and it wasn't a penalty. So then we go to VAR. You have the system in place. And I've been saying all along, if you have the system in place, use it.
Sure.
So, okay, they use the system. The system here now put doubt in the referee's mind. Right. His first judgment was this is not a penalty. Then you go and see it, and I think what Peter Walton said it best. At slow motion, it changes the perspective of what you think of this call. Because in slow motion, you lose what it is, the perception of the distance between Blaise Matuidi and Ivan Perisic. And so you're thinking there is a chance for Perisic to go up and then come down and then play the ball. Right. And this doesn't happen like that at full speed. So if you go into the monitor and you see it and you observe it, it is very difficult for a referee to then say, no, it's not a handball, once you see the slow motion replay. But that's not the way the game is played. The game is not played at slow motion, it's played at full speed. And that's how the decision should have been made. It's not a penalty, but I sympathize with the referee because once he's called over and he sees it, and obviously there is doubt in his mind, so it's not clear and obvious, he went, then he went to leave and came back. He didn't know himself, but he saw the slow motion and was convinced by it.
You're right. You're right, Ali. Here's the problem with, and I think VAR's been super in this. It's not always been. It's not all. Look, VAR's never been wrong.
Yes, the referee.
The referee. We stop it, but VAR's there to help implement. So it's not VAR that's making decisions. But here's the issue that I've got here, because you're damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't. Had the four or five officials, however many is sat in the control room, had they not referred it to the referee, there would have been an outcry. But in doing so, Ali makes the point, is correct. In doing so, they've literally stitched him up because they're just shoveling it onto him and saying, listen. And now in his mind, he's thinking, well, they're telling me to look at this, so they think it's a penalty. So it becomes convoluted in your own mind subconsciously. And I think that's the point that he got to. Whereas I think the four officials in the control room should have had a conversation between themselves quickly and said, look, this is not a penalty. We'll just take it completely out of the ref's control and we'll tell them to play the game on.
Briefly, Gab?
All I wanted to say was they did have a conversation amongst themselves, so that's what they do. I agree with Craig that probably wasn't a penalty, but there's another situation where they would call the referee over, and that is if he hasn't seen it. So I think the likeliest situation, hopefully we'll find out exactly what happened, is they looked at it, they said, we don't think it's a penalty. Nestor Pitana, referee, did you see this clearly? And if he said, no, I did not see it clearly, then he goes over, not because it's a clear and obvious error, but simply because he didn't see it properly. Then he goes over. And by the way, he does see it, as Peter Walton mentioned, he sees it and evaluates it at full speed, not in slow motion.
Sorry, before we go to Joe, the other side of the coin, just digressing a little bit here, is the first goal, which VAR couldn't be used, and there was a clear dive by Antoine Griezmann. Yeah. And I'm not picking on, it's nothing to do with France here, and they're the better side, but there's absolutely no doubt there's two key moments in that game that changed the emphasis and dynamic of the game, because it turns as the game wears on, it makes Croatia have to chase the game. And when you're chasing the game as it enters a later period, you're just leaving yourself completely open as a side to counter-attack, and obviously you're getting more tired. So that was a huge call as well, one which the referee clearly missed. And there's some are saying, well, you know, just because there's no contact there doesn't mean it's a clear dive.
Julien, I don't mean jump to conclusions here, but I may suggest that you were one of the 53% of our poll who maybe suggests it was a penalty.
No, I mean, I didn't think it was first. And then looking at it again, it looked to me like Perisic was moving his hands down towards the ball. I know what Craig said, and that he would have to be very, very quick to react and to do it. I get the point. I think France got a bit lucky on the first and the second goal. And Didier Deschamps has that image in France since he was a player, that he's a lucky guy. He's always had luck on his side, never against him, but always with him. And I think today showed again what a lucky star he has above his head.
Yeah, we should just enjoy. I mean, it's a little frustrating that we're back to this VAR thing, but I think we should just doff our cap to the French here. They had the efficiency, the dogged determination and defensive structure of a great German side, but they had, when they wanted it, the guile pace of a great Brazilian side with Mbappe and Griezmann. So they had a bit of everything.
A young back four that was slung together. Pavard is a centre-back playing in Stuttgart, playing at right back. Hernandez, likewise, is a young player. Then the two young centre-halves who are playing together. You know, so it's a good performance from that back four.
You got to give credit to Paul Pogba as well. He heavily criticised with Manchester United, and I think rightfully so at times. But based on his performance with France, certainly over the last few games, you have seen what the Paul Pogba, or the version of Paul Pogba that people appreciate and want to see more often. His ability to play that ball out wide and then join in the attack and then finish, that's what you want to see. The guy who is actually box to box, who can defend, who can give you some work defensively with discipline tactically, which is not always the case for him, and then he can join in the attack and have an impact in the way the team plays in the attacking half. That Paul Pogba, I want a piece of. Yeah. And oh, by the way, I know he didn't have a great game today, but N'Golo Kante was pivotal for this team's success early on in the tournament, and certainly as the tournament wore on. Today, for whatever reason, and we just heard that he had a stomach situation, he didn't play well. But regardless, his presence allows then Paul Pogba to then be able to join in the attack, because he knows that this guy's going to defend for you and he's going to plug holes.
If you were building a team, a world team, and you wanted to build it around one player, the player you'd build it around is N'Golo Kante, because he protects the two centre-halves, he allows other midfield players to run on, you get in behind full-back.
When you have Messi, Robbo.
No, you'd build your team
around
N'Golo.
If everyone was lined up in the world, what were you talking about?
And then you get other players, other expansive players playing higher up the field.
Surely if we're playing fantasy and you've got first draft, you're picking Kante over Messi, over Ronaldo, over Neymar.
N'Golo Kante's a world champion, he's just won the World Cup almost, not single-handedly, but he was the player.
Well, so did Giroud.
He's just got in. No, Giroud certainly didn't do it. So he's the whole midfield player that's just done everything
well, you
for
say
the
that.
team.
I mean, a word for you say that, but you know, you got to say he's a World Cup winner, Olivier Giroud.
Of course.
I mean, don't get me wrong, they could be playing from now until the Qatar 2022 World Cup and he probably wouldn't score.
He won't pass it to his own team, I don't think.
I have to say, he has been a great team player for this French squad. He's been a battering ram, he's been a butt of the jokes, he's been the one criticised, he's been the one almost laughed at for not hitting the target. But it's been not pretty, but he's been an effective foil at times for Griezmann and Mbappe. He hasn't held the ball up great. He hasn't won most of his headers, I don't think. But he's done enough in putting pressure on centre-halves and holding midfielders that has allowed that little bit of space. It's never going to be...
He's allowed
Deschamps
to change the system from the first game where he played with the front three.
I tell you, if there's anybody who's getting dropped at that World Cup, it wasn't going to be Giroud.
I can tell you from experience as a striker who did not score goals, that I can appreciate the work that Giroud does. His work.
I bet you touched it a few more times than Giroud did in the last couple of games.
No, but I'm merely suggesting that his presence there, it also gives freedom to Mbappe to move the way that he does, and Griezmann to float around the way that he does, because you know you have a focal point of a guy who's going to hold it up for you and then lay it off, and then he's going to take the pressure of the centre backs while the other guys do what they do.
Do you think when he goes around with the World Cup to the Grand Buffon, our colleague, former World Cup winner? Anyway, we'll have to get a pressure one now.
Yeah, he's still a World Cup winner, isn't he?
Yeah, but we'll get ones that have won it more recently. So he's biffed. He was talking, I don't know how much truth was in it at the time, but he was certainly mentioning the fact that Paul Pogba was a player that might not even start for France in the World Cup because there was issues with his game, because of the reasons Julien mentioned about being a team player. And so to go from somebody who potentially Deschamps was looking at to drag out the side if it wasn't going well, to play as well as he has been quite staggering. Now he's got to take that on next season for Man United. But I thought, from Deschamps' point of view, criticised for his tactics and his coaching at the Euros, but the decisions to play the two fullbacks, who are very inexperienced at this level, over much more experienced and high-profile players, I thought was one of the decisions of the tournament, because Pavard and Hernandez, along with that back four, were excellent.
Yeah, I think they were excellent. But going back to your point about Paul Pogba, the game where he really came to the fore, he played well in most of the games. The game where he had to come to the fore was against Belgium in the semi-final, when he had to do the job of marking Fellaini running the other way. He can do the other sides of the game. We've never seen him do that before, where he actually only once did Fellaini win the ball in the air. And Fellaini's a hard player to tackle in the air or out-jump in the air. He did that on several occasions. That's where he came to the fore.
So France, your champions of the World Cup, the likes of Antoine Griezmann, Paul Pogba, Kylian Mbappe and N'Golo Kante, who Robbo will build a whole team around. That's that is done. Are your champions of the world. Just a reminder, ESPN FC is with you all throughout the summer. Fear not, just because the World Cup is over, we will be with you every single day. More from us, though, in a moment. Kylian Mbappe. Let's just go out to Gab, because Gab, we didn't really give much love to Croatia earlier on in the show, but of course they played their part not only in this being a great tournament but a great final.
It's going to get wet here.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, I think it might have even been arguably their best performance of the tournament. Certainly Zlatko Dalic thought so afterwards. They felt that they dominated for long stretches, certainly in the first half. Probably right up until minute 50, 55 when Nzonzi came on. They got a rousing ovation from their supporters at the final whistle, and there's no question about it. I think they won their World Cup, and as Dalic says, you know, we showed what a small nation can do when they dream big.
You don't mean to patronise them. Obviously, they lost, but boy, they'll go home and have the support of the country.
And not only did they play well in some of the games, they had to come from behind in games, which is a major achievement. Yep. 3 games on the trot where you go a goal down. Today was probably a game too far. When that second goal, and probably the third goal, you can see the body language. They just didn't have the energy to get back into the game.
I love watching Croatia. You can see why Mourinho was chasing Perisic. Okay, there was a problem with the price, and we thought it was too big. Is there a better wide man in the business at working hard, working both ends of the pitch, helping full-backs, helping... And you can see, no surprise, why Mandzukic has played where he is, where Rakitic and Modric play where they do, where Brozovic is playing in Italy. These Croatian players, even Dejan Lovren has had a lot to say for himself the last few days. Probably the timing wasn't great, but he's playing at Liverpool. Vida's been playing, I think, out in the UK. And these Croats, they travel. And they travel for a reason, because they've got quality and they're prepared to put themselves out there.
And the two fullbacks as well, Vasalko and Strinic. You know,
you go fullbacks.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was going to do that.
They, against England, they were key to the way they played. They got crosses into the box and eventually got Croatia back into the game. And they weren't players that you'd really stand out and say, well, they're going to be decent in this tournament, but they've been excellent.
And Modric, of course, player of the tournament. He looked delighted, didn't he?
Well, would you look delighted when you just lost
the rain?
Oh yeah, you just lost the final. So he's not thinking about, well, I was the best player in the tournament, so we just lost the final. But to that point, I think there were 1 or 2 players away to really be in a position where.
It was always a pleasure to beat all of you.
Does he get the money?
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, he does get the money. No, I don't think there was any money. Just bragging rights.
There's money for the public, is there?
Yes, money. Well, it depends which country you did it in. It gets a bit complicated. Craig, good. Let's not bring that up.
Oh, it was on the website.
Hey,
That was a prize.
Stewie, Stewie's heartbroken by it.
You took it seriously.
Oh, I did, yeah, why not? And it was France winning. 200 points he got the last game.
You were leading all the way.
All the way.
You choked, basically.
See,
That's it. What might have been, just like England.
He thought he was getting prize money because he thought it was going to cover his bar bill.
Well, that's another
My
story.
It's not that big.
Well, it was that night. Right, okay, thank you very much.